Undertale, one of Toby Fox's first indie releases and the most popular game in indie game history, only to be rivaled by other releases like Cuphead and Bendy and the Ink Machine. One of Undertale's greatest strengths was bringing the player into the game itself, making them feel like their presence had agency and was causing a lot of the things that were happening in the world. Or did the player, and on occasion made them feel guilty, particularly in the game's most popular route, the Genocide route. The amazing characters, the crazy writing, the awesome battles, and the ability to use the meta created an awesome route that most people enjoyed playing. Well, even if you weren't really supposed to enjoy it. So, Toby decided that he would do something similar with his new release. A route similar to the Genocide route, though it is a little more strange in its methods. And of course, it ends with a far weirder result. This route is Snowgrave. I decided to look at both routes side by side, give comparisons and talk about what makes them work, and then of course decide which route is better, Genocide or Snowgrave. You're a small child who's just fell down Mount Ebbet. You land in a pile of flowers and are greeted by a friendly little flower who's here to help you. Well, at least that's what he says. The little floral fella decides to betray your trust and attack you instead, only for you to get saved by Goat Mom Toriel. She takes the player in, teaching them about encounters and how to spare enemies. However, in the Genocide route, that's not going to be very useful. Instead of taking the advice on peace, the player decides to go around the ruins, killing every frogget, mold, small, and wizard they come across. After solving puzzles and doing all the dirty deeds and work, you end up desperately wanting to leave the ruins, going down into the basement and confronting Toriel. You engage in a heated battle, and by the end, you slay the person who is helping you throughout your first portion of your journey. This is the beginning of the hellish route. You then continue, proceeding like normal, of course with a few slight differences. There is of course a character who knows about your horrid actions. This character not even wanting to call you a human because of the horrible things you've done. From then on, things begin to change even more. Each save point, instead of filling you with determination, just counts down the monsters you need to kill to progress from an area. Themed to Snowden slowing down and giving a feeling of dread to all those still residing in it. Of course with a bunch of other minor changes that are incredibly creepy, but I won't mention here because then this video will be way too long. And then possibly one of the game's most horribly dreaded encounters, the fight with the loving skeleton, Papyrus. He truly believes the player can do good. He believes they can do better and offers to spare them despite their obviously evil intentions. However, as you know, this is a no mercy route, and Papyrus is killed. From this point on, every encounter, instead of the exclamation point, will bring a bright red smiley face above in the text box, giving you a brief glimpse at the person behind it all. And now there's not a single NPC around. They all left, fleeing in fear of your determination. Now there's no going back. You're dead set on the route, and there's no way to escape it. Sparing is no longer an option, and you can't leave until you've killed every single monster in a certain area. There is no exception. You come across a young monster boy, of course ready to finish him like you did with all the others. However, one of the members of the Royal Guard slips in and takes the hit. It was Undyne. Another character you've grown to know and love if you played either the neutral or pacifist route. And the wound was immediately fatal, so she was pretty much going to die as soon as she took that hit. However, Undyne is just like, she's just built different, then proceeds to come back to life and absolutely wreck your shit. A long and difficult battle ensues until eventually Undyne gives in and ends up dying. Of course, not before informing the player that Alphys is actually evacuating all of the surviving citizens, and Asgore is about to absorb all the human souls he's collected. Lastly, the Hotlands and Core. Now everything's coming on to the last stretch of the game. You go through doing as you did before, killing monsters, and eventually slaying 2 Royal Guard members who attempted to stop you and avenge Undyne. And you just continue. I mean, there's nothing really else to do but just kill and kill. All the puzzles are solved and there's no interactions you can have. You did this. You did all of this, you absolute monster. Then you fight Mettaton Neo. I talk about Mettaton Neo, but nobody cares about Mettaton Neo. You head into the last corridor and obtain a real knife, the strongest weapon in the game that's capable of one-shotting pretty much any monster. However, your next opponent won't let you hit him that easily like the rest, so you're gonna need to work a bit for this kill. However, before you get there, you get a brief talk with the flower who encountered you at the beginning of your route. He tells you his backstory, but I doubt you really care too much about that, but he also tells you he's capable of saving and resetting just like you. He reiterates his kill or be killed mentality and says that neither of them would hesitate in killing each other should they need to. However, he soon realizes that the protagonist is more than willing to kill him if they have the chance, so before that moment can arise, he absconds. Then, as you get to the last corridor, you encounter the one monster you just remembered you haven't killed, sans the skeleton, coming both to stop you and avenge his brother Papyrus. You then proceed to fight him, leading to the most difficult conflict in the game. It's unlikely you're going to beat him on your first try, so you're really going to need to take advantage of your reset ability, learning his patterns and how to dodge them, learning certain prompts and audio cues, and certain scenes and dialogue to brace yourself for. I'm sure you know how the battle itself goes by now, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the result. In the final stretch of the battle, you completely cheat the system and strike Sans a second time even though it wasn't your turn, landing a slash straight across the chest. He begins to fade away, in his dying breath asking his brother if he wants some food before ascending to the afterlife. Wow. You did it. You beat Sans, but at what cost? You can't help but feel guilty. I mean, he was just another boss, but you were the ones with evil intentions here. Maybe this route wasn't as rewarding as you thought. Either way, you're at the last stretch of the game, so you might as well continue. You move forward, eventually meeting Asgore in the flower garden. You slash at Asgore, killing him with one hit until, Flowey decides to finish him off for you. He did it in an attempt to get back to your good side, his face and voice turning back to Asriel's, but it's far too late for that now. With any action button, you slash Flowey repeatedly, over and over until he's nothing but a pile of petals. Then suddenly in front of you, a child with a menacing smile appears, telling you it was your determination that brought them back and about the stats that you've increased throughout the run of the game. At this point, there is literally no escape. You can't hold down escape or press the red X. The only way to close down the game is going into the task management button and forcing a shutdown. So now you're left with two options: completely erase the world, or don't. Should you choose to erase the world, Carl will call you a good partner before eventually slashing at the screen and destroying the world. Should you refuse, well, Chara says these utterly horrifying lines.
No? How curious. You must have misunderstood. Since when were you the one in control?
Before leading to a jump scare that would then end the game. That concludes the basic summary of the Genocide route. For its positives, I'd say it's just way too good for any sort of indie game. The meta concept of this story forces you to look through a lens of what if this was happening to you? What if you were in this world with these monsters and there was somebody outside of your world controlling their fates? And either choice they make will result in either your salvation or costing you your life. It's a terrifying scenario of the meta that Undertale handles way too perfectly. Not only that, but the coding that completely locks you onto the path and makes leaving impossible just makes the game far scarier and forces you to play your role as part of the story even more. If there was one negative I'd give to Undertale's Genocide route, it would be that it doesn't really hit you in the emotions as much as it could. And by this, I mean for players who started with the Genocide route and didn't do the pacifist or neutral route. They wouldn't really care as much for these characters, and therefore their deaths would be a lot less impactful. However, will that stay true with Snowgrave? Let's let my friend Hayrufied talk about it.
Well, boys and girls, Toby Fox has done it again. He's made me feel bad for Pixels. And he's also made an incredible game. So the second chapter of Deltarune was recently released, and what would you expect from the man himself? It was an absolute masterpiece like always. Funny writing, amazing and memorable characters, an amazing combat system, and had a genocide route so fucked up, it makes the genocide route of Undertale, which was basically slaughtering monsters and their hopes and dreams of escaping the eternal prison that was the underground, whilst consulting with the soul of a human that died protecting their monster brother that now has a hatred for everything that lives, destroying the world in the process, look like a child's daycare. Because unlike in Undertale where you waste your energy and do all the killing yourself, in this chapter, as Chris, you emotionally abuse and manipulate a little dear girl named Noelle into killing every single monster for you. So basically, Chris is on the Sigma male grind set. And it's not even a challenge either. Noelle just one-shots enemies and leaves them there to die as ice sculptures, for crying out loud. Doing this for numerous times just makes them run away because Noelle is just the equivalent of Deltarune Broly. And it's not just the combat where this also happens as well. It's also the puzzles. Early on in the Snowgrave route, Noelle, while doing the electricity puzzle that's frequent in this game, actually considers stepping off the pressure plate, letting Chris die. I mean, it makes sense. Chris became heartless and takes charge of Noelle's actions, and then near the middle of the game, even when you try to kill her, she just puts it off and says that, quote, "He's just making me stronger," which just means that she has a liking to him for some reason. And bro, when we found Burnley and that shit was going on, dude, that physically did something to me, man. You tell Noelle to use the move Snowgrave, and she tells you that she doesn't know how to use it. So what do? You force Noelle to use the move, and she says, "Oh, fuck it, I'll do it anyways," and then you fucking kill Burnley, who, by the way, just wanted to make sure his friend was okay. So if you really think about it, you forced Noelle to kill her own friend. Thanks to you, you fucking soulless monster. What's probably one of the worst parts is that Susie has no clue on what happened and thinks that they saved everyone. I mean, if you think being saved is the same as being a sufficient cooling source for a freezer, then sure, you saved everyone. One of the biggest differences in Noelle is how she sees you in her eyes. I mean, normally people would hate to be around someone who manipulates others, but Noelle just accepts you as her master, willing to do anything he says and also makes excuses for Chris. So in conclusion, this game makes you feel like a domestic abuse perpetrator.
Thanks, Hayru. Absolutely awesome summary. If we're to talk about positives, I'd say that the Snowgrave route is way better when it comes to bringing in feels. You get that same "I'm so fucked up" feel from the Snowgrave route. However, you can still feel just as bad even if you haven't played the main route of the game. Not only are you mentally toying with the character, but you're completely breaking their worldview and completely fucking them up in the head as soon as you get out of it. Especially doing something like that while they're visiting their terminally ill father. But you possibly caused her to kill one of her best friends. Not only that, but you're forcing her to feel guilty about that decision, possibly for the rest of her life, since she remembers very vividly what she did and what this caused. And I'd say the worst part about it is that you're doing it to someone who straight up doesn't deserve it at all. During the entirety of the normal Deltarune route, me and Hayrufied were completely making fun of Noelle the whole time. We couldn't stop bagging on her, and there was literally nothing wrong with her. We just liked doing it. But after playing the route, we literally felt bad for even fucking with her like that. Being able to create such morbid and fearsome imagery without even seeing a little droplet of blood, that's really something I need to commend Toby for in the making of this route. The only negative I have with it is the same negative I have throughout the rest of Deltarune Chapter 2. It's just a little wee bit too short. But other than that, I think that the Snowgrave route is absolutely perfect. So which is the better of the two routes? Snowgrave. Snowgrave, definitely. You can't beat the classics, but Jesus Christ did Toby step up with the Snowgrave route. It's possibly even one of my favorite routes in terms of games in general. Complete psychological horror in a game that isn't even supposed to be psychological horror. So the Snowgrave route takes the W here. Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask, do you like my voice? Do you like dubs? Well, I'm making a second channel called SK Dubs, where I do voice ideas, auditions, and comic dubs with a few friends. Link will be in the description below, so make sure to like, subscribe, and watch some of the videos I post up. Haven't posted any yet, but I'll be in the process of making some. Anyway, I'm Striking Sarcophagus, and I'll see you in the next video.
Such a blessing with these feels, you can't go messing up the hoes, so try and press it. Really, you can make me feel alright. Don't need a lesson, baby girl, you keep me guessing.